This system, the K-Ready system, is a system that is dynamic. It's constantly changing. The purpose for that is for improvements or to address any kind of issues or challenges, anything that we can do to try to make the system better. The slides and the items that we talk about in today's session are current as of today. This session is really focused on the technical aspects of the K-Ready system. If you should happen to have policy or practice questions, those are questions that are typically going to be related to how the assessment is administered or how the assessment is conducted by teachers. We encourage you to use the email there to send your question to the ELA help@education.ohio.gov. You can also go online, take a look at some of the resources that are available that can provide guidance with regards to practice and policy. So we want to encourage you to send those kinds of questions to that email. We want to talk a little bit about the monitoring process and how you do that, how you monitor progress along the way with regards to the ELA. One of the things we have encouraged data managers to do is to take a look at where their teachers are as it relates to entering the data. We want to make sure that you're staying on top of this so that it's not a rush at the end of the window to try to get the teachers to enter the scores for the students, and also for you to, as data managers, to ensure that all the items that need to be taken care of on your part are addressed. And we don't want to wait until the very end of the window. So we've provided this kind of sequence, if you will, of things for you to think about and check on along the way. And the first is that you are in fact receiving student scores and data, that you're checking to make sure that the data is complete. And if there's anything missing, that you're going back and you're checking and talking with the teachers to make sure that you're able to get those scores entered. Again, we want you to also check the status of the teachers. We know that during the course of the window, there could be changes. And that might involve teacher emails being updated. It might involve a teacher going to a different location, all kinds of different changes. We want to make sure that the status of the teacher is correct and updated in the system if there are changes. And to that point, ensuring that those teachers that need to be in active status are active, and any teacher that's no longer with your organization is set to inactive. We want to make sure that that inactive status is not implemented, however, until the end of the window, just to ensure that you're able to see the students and the scores. We also want to make sure that the enrollments are correct, that students and teachers are linked properly. We know that with the ELA that there are students that are shared between organizations, and that's okay. But we want to make sure that they are linked to the proper teachers and that the enrollments are assigned correctly. We have two different data collections that are going on right now, and they have two different data tokens. So if you're utilizing the data collection that we have used in prior years, you're going to use that top data collection token, that ELA Fall 23. And for those that have selected the pilot, they should be using Pilot 2023 ELA as their data token. Next, we have the transfers. As a data manager, you should be monitoring transfers, those students that are moving back and forth between your organization and a different organization. So we want to make sure that you're monitoring that transfer, that back and forth, if you will, of those students. And the reason for that is, again, here with regards to the point of authority, making sure that the POA is assigned correctly. The end goal here is to ensure that you have scores so that those scores can be collected and reported upon. You will need to have the point of authority in order for those scores to be assigned to you.
We're going to start with data accounting. Review teacher entries, student scores. So you want to ensure your teachers have those scores entered for all of their students. You can monitor that by generating a SKB ratings report. And that will show you all of the students, who they're attached to, and what scores have been entered thus far for that student. The second bullet point is updating users and students. You want to make sure that if there is a name change for a user, whether it's a last name or an email change, that you do it manually first. If you are also using the bulk loader to enter your teacher or your student information, always update your teacher first manually, because if you do a bulk load of that teacher file, it creates another account for that user. So to make sure that doesn't happen, just update the user first manually by the name or email address, whatever the change may be. For student information, let's say that maybe the disability code changed, or IEP needs to change, or even a name change. Again, you can check those individually. We'll show you exactly how you can update that student manually. And then lastly is the confirm enrollments active and inactive status. Then we're going to generate a report that's called the Data Downloads Enrollment Template Report. This is going to assist you showing if your student is active, if you have the point of authority for that student. Let's go ahead and first start with the SKB ratings report. So on that left-hand navigation, go down to your reports, select the drop-down arrow, and select ELA SKB ratings report. Now, depending on the data collection, so if you're using the standard ELA, you're going to select the first one there, which is the fall 2023 early learning assessment. If you are doing the pilot version, you will want to select that as your data collection. Now, you are going to see that filter by point of authority is automatically checked. So when that is checked, that means that you are only going to show students whose point of authority is with your organization is going to be populating on that report. When you uncheck it, this will show students that have been loaded by your organization, regardless of the student's point of authority. So this option is intended for situations where students are shared by two organizations, as stated earlier, whether it is with an educational service center, an ESC, or a DD in a district. You can uncheck that box so you can at least see, and that student will pull up as long as you loaded that student. So we're going to go ahead and just keep that check. Now your start date, you want to do it at the very beginning of the window. So that is August 15th. Select OK. Your end date, you want to do it as today if you're pulling it today. If you're doing it after, let's say, the assessment window is November 14th. So you can do it for that end date of November 14th. So however you like, and go ahead and select OK. Now location is going to show you if your organization has multiple locations and you want to specify down to a specific location. You would select that and select generate report. If you want to look at your whole district, your whole organization, if you have multiple locations, you can select that as a whole. And right next to it, select generate report. Once that's done, you do see it successfully requested at the bottom. Reports can take up to 4 hours to generate. Normally it's not that long. Just give it a minute to download because you do see it's in processing status. After a minute or so, select refresh up here in the top, and you'll see then it'll download. If it hasn't, just give it another minute to download. So go ahead and open that report. So here we selected the standard ELA fall data token, data collection. So for this, you are going to see 72 SKBs. Now, if you are just concentrating on the required, those 10 required SKBs, those are actually going to be listing. You'll look for 24 columns that have scores. So, for instance, this very first one, separation with familiar adults. So for this, I'm sorry, I was in the other one. And the emotional identification. So there are some scores entered here, but you're gonna look and you're gonna see that not all the teachers have entered scores. So on this point, what you want to do is reach out to those teachers and make sure that they get those scores entered by the end of the window. So I would want to reach out to Elizabeth and to Jill and make sure that these students their scores get entered as soon as possible. And this is the list of your students. Now, the second bullet point that we discussed was updating users and students. So let's go ahead and first go to users. And so from here, I want to update. I know a teacher name has changed. So I'm going to go ahead and generate or search my users, find my teacher that I'm looking for, and select open next to their name. So if the name has changed, what you're going to do is go ahead and type that in. If there was an email change, you're going to type that information in, change it, and then hit save. Once that's done, then that user's account is updated. You can see that you have that green user was successfully updated. Now to update a student, if you are selecting your students on that left-hand navigation right underneath users, we're going to go to one of our students here and take a look, because we can see that there's a couple items that need to be filled in for this user or for the student. We'll go ahead and select the gender, and you can select the race. So you can then go ahead and select if the student is an IEP, or maybe the student is an English language learner and this wasn't marked originally, you'll want to make sure you make that change. Just remember, if you do select yes in the IEP, you want to make sure that you have a disability code attached. So from there, you'll want to go ahead and select the disability code and hit save. And you can see the student was successfully updated. Regarding confirming enrollments and inactive status for your students. So we're going to go back to reports. We're going to select the drop down arrow and go down to the very bottom where it's system reports. You're going to pull your data downloads. It's going to show you all of the information that has been uploaded for your district, for your organization in K-Ready. So when you select your download type, if you want to look specifically at all the students that have been added, you can select that. If you want to look for all your teachers, you can look at that. The last one is the enrollments, and this is the one that is going to tie the student to the teacher. If they don't have a teacher attached, they become inactive. You want to make sure your status is correct. They have teachers attached if they need them. You're also going to see point of authority. So select your data collection. And so for region here, so a region is if a data manager has access to multiple districts. The district, again, is going to show if there's multiple buildings underneath that district. And or if you're just looking for that one location, you can select your drop down arrow and select your location and choose that. Now I'm just going to go ahead and go with district on this example and just request right next to it. You can see it was successfully requested, so hit close. And again, you want to give it some time to process, and it can take up to 4 hours to generate that report. Once you have that populated, go ahead and hit download. So now you see the list of your students. So here's your student information. Here's your teacher information. And then here, the last 3 columns is really what you want to take a look at. This is that data collection that you originally chose when you were creating and generating that report. So make sure that is all correct for all of your students. And then you will have the active column. So as I stated earlier, if a student is not attached to a teacher, they will not show as active. Okay. So this, for instance, this column would be blank, and this may say no. So that is if a student is not attached. The point of authority is the one that you also want to pay attention to if you are sharing students with an ESC or a DD organization. So you want to make sure that you have that point of authority for that student if you are to have that point of authority. So you want to, this report kind of helps see as a bigger picture and looking at that and comparing that data. So if you, for instance, generate a data downloads report and you choose your students and then you generate an enrollment report, you can kind of compare and see, well, is there students in there that I've uploaded that maybe aren't attached, or Or is there students on there that maybe need to be? You want to kind of look and you're comparing that data to make sure that everything is on track. Data accuracy. So approve and submit transfers. A reminder, if you are doing any internal transfers from building to building within your organization, they are not going to show up in your transfer history. So at that point, like I say, you just keep an eye on these transfers and make sure that by the end of the window that you are going to approve or decline, and make sure that they all go through, even for yours or for anybody who has requested the transfer. Set point of authority status. This is when we were looking at that data downloads enrollment report, where you can see if you have the point of authority. If you don't have a point of authority that maybe you should, you will want to reach out to that previous district or organization to make sure that they see that transfer and that they either approve or decline. So you may need to reach out to them to make sure that that goes through before the end of the window. And then the last one here is you're reviewing your reports. You're wanting to make sure, looking at the data downloads and looking at the ELA SKB report, that the ratings are getting entered, those scores are getting entered, that the students that you should have are showing up as point of authority, that you don't have any outstanding transfers either that you need to accept or you're waiting for somebody to accept. You want to take a deeper look. So, and looking at your K-Ready screen, you will select your transfers on that left-hand navigation. In the request from others, if you have any that have come in that you may not have approved at this point, they were going to show there. Your requests will show any of your requests that you have asked. So maybe a student came to you halfway through the year and they were already loaded into the K-Ready system by their previous organization. You would see that in your request. And then your transfer history is going to show all of that information as well. From there, like I say, you want to make sure you're looking through all of that information to staying up on top of that for your organization before the end of the window.
So I just want to state and share that with regards to external transfers, and specifically external transfers with shared students, when completing an external transfer request for students who are receiving additional instructional services through a secondary organization such as an ESC or DD in the K-Ready system, data managers will need to ensure that the students are unattached from the teacher at both locations, the home district organization and the shared location. So again, if that student is moving from your location to an external location, it's important that those that are sharing that student unattach that student. This is based upon you're the sending location, you're sending to a receiving location. If you're that location, the sending location, it's important for you to unattach those students so that the receiving location can become the point of authority once the transfer is complete. But please note, the sending location should not unattach the teacher from the student until the transfer is complete, meaning that the transfer has been initiated by the receiving location and approved by the sending location.
Data analysis. The data displays are going to be a collection of interactive charts that show how the children in your district or school are performing. And so these reports do allow you to filter various visual information, and these can be done at any time as long as the teacher has entered ratings for that student for those items. The last one is accessing your archives. And this is just also a reminder, if reports are not downloaded, they will not be listed in archives. So for instance, during this assessment window, running reports for the SKB for the data downloads, let's say next fall, you wanted to see what you generated the previous year. So you can't pull a year, the report in your archives unless you generated it this year. Selecting your archives on this left-hand side, these are hyperlink that takes you to those reports that you generated during that assessment window, during that school year. And again, if you didn't generate the report during that school year, it will not be saved in your archives. The first one is that data downloads report. And this is used more, like I say, as a managerial report because you want to kind of look at that data, see what has been uploaded into the system. And this is used to confirm and just check that information that's loaded to make sure it's all accurate. If there's a name change or spelling error, you want to make sure you change that manually. And this report is available both during and after the window for you to generate at any time. The second one is the SKB ratings report, and this is going to be used to monitor any items that have scores in them for that window during that period. So again, if you don't see any scores entered, then you're going to want to reach out to your teachers to make sure that these scores get entered by the end of the window. And this is available both during and after the window. So you can pull this at the end of December if you wanted to, because that window's closed, yes, but it doesn't mean you can't generate that report. And then lastly is the data archives. This is available as long as you have generated the report during that specific year for that specific assessment. So if you didn't generate it, it's not going to be saved in your archive. So that's just a nice little reminder to just kind of, even if you're not using it right now, maybe generate it at the end of the window to make sure you have that for next year. This is good to kind of review any historical reports, and this is available all year. So you, as long as you generated those reports during that year.
Just want to provide you with some information regarding the supports that are available to you. As you know, the Ohio Department of Education is the primary source for you with regards to information about the ELA project, both from a policy and guidelines perspective and some background and context information about the assessment in general. It also provides information specific to roles. So to find that, you can select the main page there for the department, and then under topics, select early learning. And then you can drill down to the early learning assessment. And there you'll find information for families, for teachers and administrators. So here you would click on administrators. And then again, this is the information specific to your role as a data manager. In addition to that, we have the help desk. So we want to provide this information with regards to the phone number and how you get access to the help desk. If you do have questions of a technical nature with regards to the K-Ready system, you can reach out to the help desk and we'll do our best to try to respond to that. Again, I do want to point out that there are some technical issues or challenges that may occur that we in turn would then need to reach out to the software vendor in order to identify what that error or issue is, and then get a response that we can then provide to you, or a resolution to that. To reach out, you can call us at 844-K12-OHIO, which is 844-512-6446, or you certainly can submit a request form on our website. So to share just a few other points on our site, if you go to the main landing page there, you'll have K12.help, and click this very first button there that you see. It'll bring you to the support site for the entire project. We have resources there for data managers and teachers. You're going to want to select the data manager support. And I just want to highlight a couple of things here. The first is that there are resource files here that kind of walk you through some of the key components of the project and some of the areas where people have had some challenges or difficulties, or just resources that we think will help you in implementing the project as a data manager. We provided that for you. I want to point to a couple here. The first here is regarding shared students. We've talked a little bit about that. You know, for organizations that are sharing students with an ESC or a DD, we have a resource file there online. If you click that, it walks you through two different scenarios. These scenarios are based upon who loads the student first. So in this case, if the student is loaded by the home district first, prior to the ESC or DD, it would give you steps that you can follow with regards to how you set that sharing up between those two organizations, or vice versa. If the ESC or DD happens to load the student first, what needs to occur? In addition to that, We've provided some special notes here. We want you to understand that in this case, this is definitely a local decision. We are only providing some recommendations for you here, but how you do that is certainly a local decision and needs to happen with communication between both organizations. I mentioned earlier about the external transfer situation when you're sharing students. You can find the link to that right here. If you click that, it walks you through how to address transfers, whether they're internal or external. And then at the very bottom, that information that I read to you, you can find that information there with regards to what you do when you're sharing a student. So I just wanted to point out where these resources are and the fact that there are resources available to you on the site. We've got various videos and again, help guides that walk you through how to implement as the project as a data manager. We also have resources regarding the report, so you can go there and open up those resources that talk to you about how to filter by POA or how to access the various reports. And then finally here on the help desk site, we want you to be aware that you can find the support form here at the very bottom of any of our pages. You can kind of scroll to the very bottom and get to submitting a support request to our team that way. And we have two new points we want to highlight here. The first being that the assessment window closes on the 14th, but the data collection has been extended until December 1. And for that, I want to share, if you're not signed up for the messages that are sent from ODE through GovDelivery, we encourage you to do so, encourage you to go to the department site and sign up. We do post the messages on our site under news and announcements, and you can find that here. So as soon as you load the page, you'll see something here called news. If you click on that, you're going to always find the 3 most recent messages that have been sent out through GovDelivery, just in case you happen to miss those. We did post that message that went out on the 13th. And I want to highlight this section right down here about the extension of the data collection. The fall ELA assessment window closes on November 14th. However, we are extending the K-Ready system fall data collection until December 1 at 11:59 p.m. to allow additional time for teachers to enter ELA data. So again, I want to highlight that teachers now have until 11:59 p.m. on December the 1st to enter data. After this date, teachers cannot enter ratings into the K-Ready for the fall assessment window, and data managers cannot enroll students to the fall data collection. There will not be an additional cleanup window for data managers this year. So it's important, data managers, that you understand that all of your work has to be completed by December the 1st as well. So that's why it's going to be critical that you are approving those transfers, you're communicating with those districts, that you're working with, and if you have students receiving supplemental services, that you're working with those other organizations to make sure everything is cleaned up and that scores are entered and everything is in order by December the 1st.
I would like to highlight one of the questions regarding looking at a student profile. Question is, when looking at a student's profile, I don't see any data collections that are assigned to them, but I do remember assigning them when I updated the student, and I connected them to the teacher and assigned the token. So they want to look more at when you're looking at that student and open that student profile up, where do we see the data collection added? Let's go ahead and we're going to pull up the same student I did earlier and select open next to their name. So when you're looking at that student in more detail there, the enrollments tab next to the details does show the name of the teacher associated. However, to open this student up just a little bit further and to make sure that you are assigning or that they have that data collection, right underneath this box, it has the word location, 1 of 1, or whatever that may be. The word location is like a little hidden hyperlink. So when you click that, you now see a data collection assignment tab next to the enrollments. So now, if you did not have anything attached, this would be no data collections. This particular student, I do have both of them attached. Again, you're only going to have one. You're not going to have both. But that is how you want to look at that student. You can, however, you see that you're actually now in the organization. So if you were to drill down a different way, you can select your view districts and then view locations and then view students. And then you can look at the list of your students for that location, and you can open up each one to see, is this student attached to a data collection? Okay. And I just wanted to point that out. I know that was one of the questions, and a lot of times, again, I will stress this: if a teacher's not seeing a student, but you see him clearly on that student on that user's roster, then that means that the data collection has not been assigned. One of the questions, can you attach students to data collections through the bulk loader? And that answer is yes. That is the very last file you're going to upload. You can upload your teacher or student files first. However, the last file you upload is the enrollment file, and that does two things. It attaches the student to the teacher as well as the data collection. So that's one of the things, remembering the enrollment file you do once, you just can go ahead and upload it. It'll assign to the teacher and to that data collection. When you're adding the student manually, you've got to add the teacher manually and add that data collection, or that student will not show on the teacher's roster. One of the questions was UTF-8. So if you're getting that error when you're trying to upload a file, please reach out to the help desk and we can walk you through corrections that need to be made to that file in order for that to upload. Yes, yes, you do want to add in all the information for the student. And so that student profile page, make sure that you enter if there's the gender, the race, all the accurate information, because in hindsight here, when you're looking at these reports and you're generating the report, that way you have the most accurate, up-to-date data, and that's going to help you in the long run when you're doing the data displays. But yes, you want to make sure you fill out all of that information for each student.